back to the Next Level podcast. This is episode 5. We are recording on Good Friday or Gray Friday. My name is Tom Lauro. I'm your host, and today we will be talking to a really special guest and friend of mine, Greg Dubin. Greg, why don't you go ahead and just give everybody a little spiel about who you are, where you're from, and kind of, how we know each other, all that good stuff.
Sure. Hi, I'm Greg. I am an industrial designer in Brooklyn. An industrial designer is someone who designs something for industrial production. It's a confusing term that people don't understand frequently. So basically, if there's a physical product, an industrial designer probably designed that. I'm originally from outside Chicago. Moved to New York, 5 years ago or so. And I know Tom. We worked together. When he interviewed me, he came in wearing a Joyce Manor shirt, and I knew from then on that we were going to be tight. So thanks, man, for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about, your education and stuff and how you kind of, because obviously, I know the type of work you do and, kind of what we're doing in the office, because obviously, like Greg was saying, we work together at our full-time job, which is great here in Brooklyn. But I'm also just a really big fan of what you do outside of work, which is what we'll get into eventually. But just to kind of tell everybody, coming from Chicago to Brooklyn, what was kind of that intermediary step for you?
Sure. So I went to my undergrad at a small college in Western Mass called Hampshire College, which is, known to be kind of a radical institution in that they don't have grades, they don't have tests. You get written evaluations, you build your own major. And I kind of did that and then realized that I really wanted, I studied design more generally, and then I kind of realized that, one, that wasn't going to get me a job. And then two, I really figured out that I wanted to be an industrial designer. I started off kind of wanting to do footwear design. Kind of quickly got over that after doing my senior capstone. And so I took, some time off between that and going to grad school, which I was, fortunate enough to be able to do. And so I ended up going to Pratt in Brooklyn because I wanted to be in New York. That's where a lot of the industrial design jobs, basically, you're either in New York or you're in somewhere in California. And I've never been big on California. So this is really it for me. And so I started at Pratt to get my master's in industrial design in 2019. Took a year off during COVID. So in 2020, I moved down to Birmingham, Alabama, and worked for a little over a year at a industrial design firm, consultancy, doing all sorts of stuff, and then moved back up here to finish up. Ended up building some furniture for my senior thesis, for my master's program. And now I work with Tom over at Pearhead, which is a baby and pet company, and we do lots of decorative items, picture frames. We're working on a lot of wooden toys right now, which is exciting. Hopefully I'm allowed to say that on something that's going to be published online, and making a lot of stuff that's fun for the whole family.
Yeah. Which is great, and it's great working with you. I think you bring a lot of new perspective that we didn't have before. I think the team was very graphic design heavy, as you know, and obviously we do a lot of product and packaging design where we are, but having your brain, which I feel like works more in 3-dimension, whereas a lot of times we can make 3-dimensional stuff, but it's all in Illustrator still flat. So yeah. I think if anything, bringing, having you on the team and just being able to talk to you every day, because we sit next to each other, it's nice to be able to just kind of pick your brain and get that perspective. And yeah, I love having you and love talking to you about music. Greg and I really jive on a lot of the same stuff. We grew up listening to a lot of the same music. We're both big fans of Midwest emo, which is, great for me because now I finally have somebody to talk to at work about it.
Yeah,
And
we're both Punishers, so
big time.
we we really hit each other with these bands and artists.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of times we're talking about stuff and people around us are like, what in the fuck are these guys even talking about? Who are these musicians? You know? But I also feel like, well, at least from my perspective, I don't know about you, but design from that type of music has really played an important role in who I am today and kind of what type of stuff I'm making. And yeah, I just like the DIY scene. And I've talked about this in the past with other guests, but that DIY music scene, whether it's indie or punk or emo, there's just so much design happening at different levels in that industry that it's almost impossible for it not to bleed over into your work, especially if you're also doing design work.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially when I was, more interested in like footwear and more fashion oriented stuff, punk visually was like a huge influence. And then, I mean, there was a certain point where I kind of realized that really trying to translate the do-it-yourself ethos in like the more abstract and I guess just the more abstract elements of the ethos of like punk and DIY in music is what I wanted to translate. And so my footwear collection that I did as an undergrad, the name of it was named after a Touche Amore record.
Mm-hmm.
It was called "To the Beat of a Dead Horse," countercultural design through modernism or something like that.
Sure.
And it was like kind of exploring the countercultural aspects of like modern design, and then trying to integrate those two things with each other.
Okay.
So trying to exploring punk and DIY through design has been something that I've been interested in for pretty much as long as I've been interested in design. And now, I mean, I would say like my work is less, as I've gotten older and more experienced, my work has become less interested in trying to like look punk or like integrate more obvious visual references, but the idea of like doing it yourself has really continued to push me forward and inspire me.
Sure.
I mean, that's pretty much why I'm like on this podcast, because I started working on a project when I decided that like I needed to do something on my own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that, like we were saying before, that DIY mentality of you got to do it on your own because nobody's going to do it for us is really important in not only driving yourself forward as a professional, but it's also going to play a lot into our topic of discussion today, which is making shit, making shit or making things, making whatever. I've talked a little bit with some people about the motivation to be self-employed. We've talked about the motivation to find dream jobs, but I really haven't delved into yet discussing things with people about just making things for yourself, because there's a lot of stigma. And actually this ties back, Nick and I were talking about this maybe a week or two ago, that I feel like the younger generations of designers that are coming up, whether it's graphic design, industrial design, they're having a really hard time self-starting. And there's a lot of self-doubt in this younger community of designers, where I feel like it's harmful to their development as professionals that they're not taking the opportunities to take their skills and just make things for themselves, like dream projects, branding businesses that they want to start on their own, stuff like that. So, I mean, we can start talking a little bit about that, kind of how you find your voice in projects, because since the time that I've known you, I've seen you develop some really cool stuff and actually take it from concept all the way to physical product. Not something obviously that I've seen in a store, but you said, fuck it. I'm going to make it because I like it. I'm going to give it to somebody as a gift, or I'm going to make it for myself because I have this idea in my head and I have to get it out into the real world.
Well, thank you for saying it's cool. That means a lot. Yeah, I mean, where should we start?
why don't you talk a little bit about how your professional and your school experiences lended you to being able to take these ideas and just manifest them without that feeling of guilt? Because I think there's this hurdle for a lot of people right now where they're saying to themselves, oh, I can't do this because it's not good enough, or no one's going to like it. You know, like I would take it from that perspective.
Sure. I mean, that's definitely something I've really struggled with. Oh, sorry. Were you done talking? Because you've been kind of cutting out.
Yeah, I've noticed there's been a bit of lag. But yeah, I'm all done.
Okay, sorry. I wasn't sure if it was a intentional pause. Yeah, I mean, getting started is something that's like really kind of I've struggled with. I mean, even outside design, just throughout like my whole life, due to I don't know, self-doubt, lack of self-confidence in executing something. You know, especially now with like social media, you see finished products and you see perfection because that's what gets put out. That's what people want to share. And it's hard to it's a struggle not to like compare yourself
Sure
to that. And I mean, I think it's like actually easier to get into a lot of things nowadays. What with like, I mean, in terms of industrial design, there's software you can get for free that you can run on your computer. You can get like a free license for Fusion 360 to just tool around with, and that's like a professional grade software. And with 3D printers being so cheap, you know, I have a 3D printer in the other room that was $100, and I have a 3D printer in this room that was free. And if you can like model something, you can print it, and that's like a really easy way to start getting into things. So I feel like the barrier to entry for making is definitely lower, but I feel like building the skills in school of prototyping, of going through like the very earliest phases of design, whether that's from sketching and model making through to like the larger refinements, where it really like encouraged me to start exploring things more on my own, and realizing that, you know, it is a process. You don't start with a final design, you don't start with a final object, you work your way up to it. And you know, I feel a little silly saying that because making stuff is something that I like struggled with a lot even in school. I really wish I had like taken more advantage of like of the wood shop, or like had learned to do more metalworking and stuff like that. I didn't do nearly as much as I would have liked until like my thesis year, just because, you know, I didn't think I was good at it and didn't want to make, you know, when I'm turning stuff in for assignments, I don't want it to look bad, even if there is kind of an understanding that you're learning. You want to turn in something that looks final, that looks industrially produced. And so, you know, it's easy to like 3D print something, or make a rendering, a 3D model and a rendering. And then in my thesis year, I built some furniture and I started doing some woodworking and realized I really enjoyed it. And the physical process of taking something from a concept to an idea, and like, you know, learning through the trial of doing it. You know, I made mistakes, and I think there's definitely rough edges to, you know, these furniture pieces that I made, but you know, I made them, and like the memory and the experience that's embedded within that, I think outweighs any of the, you know, very noticeable physical flaws.
Sure. Yeah, and I think that's the biggest part of it, is making mistakes. I think so many people, especially, we live in a world where everything we see is such a glossy finished product on social media. We never get the process, we never get the rough edges. Nobody's ever giving like the lessons learned. So I think a big part of this idea of making stuff is you have to go through this process of failure to be able to say, oh, well, it doesn't matter if it's not perfect because it's out there. I can always make it better. I can always make refinements. There can always be a 2.0, a 3.0.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's this mentality of you have to be able to not have that barrier in front of you where you're like, well, if it's not good enough, no one's going to like it. Someone's going to make fun of me. You just have to do it. If it's something that you're passionate about, you just make it. Like I would say, even from my own experience making t-shirts, making hats, there's this whole process of things that you don't know when you first start doing it. Setting up files the right way, making sure you're in good contact with whoever your screen printer, your embroiderer is. I've gotten so many items back that I'm like, oh shit, this is not what I saw in my head. Because there's man-made error in everything that you take from idea to finished product. And the more people you involve in that, the more the idea is going to change. It's never going to be exactly what is on your screen. And it's never going to translate 110% or like even 90% directly to the finished product. It's going to change because everybody's mind and eyes are different. And the more hands you put on that, the more it's going to be different. But just the idea of saying to yourself, it doesn't matter, because if I can get this thing out of my head and into the world, then that's a win. And
yeah, totally.
And it feels good. I will say from personal experience, and even seeing like other people's stuff like yours, there's something so fulfilling about seeing something that somebody has made that they said, hey, remember that drawing I showed you? Here's like the physical sample.
Yeah, I mean, something on your computer looks perfect, but you can't touch it.
Right.
And I mean, there's like, this came up, I learned about this when I was like doing research for my, graduate thesis. Things with the handmade quality, whether it's just the perception of it being handmade or like actually being handmade, tend to be more beloved objects from like a psychological perspective.
Sure. Yeah. I think there's just something so fulfilling about it. And it's not, I was going to say it's frustrating to me, but it's not frustrating. It just makes me sad that there are people out there that feel like, oh, my stuff is not good enough to be out there in the world. And I think it's just take your expertise, like whether or not that person believes it, they're an expert in something that a perception of how to make something, a perspective on how materiality works that I don't have. And if anything, it gives us a case study on maybe what not to do or how to refine it, how to make it better. That's the point of these creative communities is we want to share information like we're doing right now. And we want to put our stuff out there so that we can continue to right. And we want to be able to give people the information they need to take lessons from us, to take style tips or manufacturing tips or anything. I just think it's really important for us to be able to feel like there's a safe space for us to share our work.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I guess like kind of surmounting that defeatism of like, oh, my stuff's not good enough to share. And like pushing through and recognizing that it's all a learning process, and that if you start doing things for yourself rather than for the consumption by others, you're probably going to be happier and more fulfilled by the making that you're doing. I mean, it's easier now than ever in history, really, to learn to do like whatever. Go online, look it up. There's tutorials.
Sure.
That people put together to teach people like you how to do something they haven't done before. Yeah, I mean, really, it is just like getting started is the hardest part, and that's something I have to remind myself all the time.
Yeah.
I also realized we're like almost 20 minutes in, and I haven't actually mentioned what I'm working on. Should I do that?
Well, I think this has been a really good like segue into maybe some projects that you are working on. I would actually like to start not with the feature of what we're gonna talk about. I want to talk about the picture and project that you worked on, the ceramics.
Yeah, I wish I had those with me.
That's okay.
If I was at my girlfriend Izzy's place, I could show them off in person. But
yeah, so just like a little like preface for everybody. Greg worked on this really amazing. Was it ceramic or was it porcelain? I can't remember.
Porcelain is a ceramic.
Oh, porcelain is a ceramic. Excuse me.
So there we go.
So
it's a teaching moment. It's a learning moment.
Greg's always there with the hot takes on materiality, which is great for me because I'm so bad at it. But it's real. Actually, it's been a great learning experience being able to pick your brain on this stuff. But
I don't know how to print a T-shirt, so
that's okay.
We've all got our areas of expertise.
Yeah, but Greg worked on this amazing ceramics project. It was this really beautifully designed pitcher, and it came with 2 mugs. Correct?
4 mugs.
4 mugs. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
But it just like
so we can entertain a family.
Exactly, of course. But it was just a beautiful design, and I remember you showing me pictures of the sketches, and then eventually like the 3D model, and I think and then the final product, obviously. But like, I think just talk through a little bit of the process of how you got like this idea popped in your head, what it was for, and then how you made it.
Sure. Well, I mean, first off, thank you. You have such kind words. I'm like very flattered. I really appreciate that you're so interested in it. I mean, throughout any project that I've like come to shove in your face and be like, hey, take a look at this thing I'm doing. You've always been super interested and supportive, and I really do appreciate that.
Yeah,
it's very encouraging. I hope everyone who's perhaps struggling to get started on a project can have someone who like is encouraging and says that they want to see the next stage. But yeah, so I designed this coffee carafe and a set of 4 mugs for my girlfriend. Her name's Izzy. As a Christmas gift, I started it. So I'm Jewish. I've never celebrated Christmas really before. This was for last year, so 2023. And I wanted, to do something special. I had missed Christmas the year before because the day I was supposed to leave to go to like her sister's place out on Long Island, I realized I had COVID. So I spent Christmas alone at home. And so I wanted to do something really special for, this last Christmas. And, what's more special than something that you designed or made yourself, in my humble opinion.
I agree.
And so I started scheming in like August. And, I have these skills and these tools and access to resources and people who know how to make these things. So I figured, I'm lucky, I should take advantage of that and make something with it. And she loves coffee. And she had this Yield amber glass coffee carafe that I'd gotten her for her birthday, and it had bumped on the counter and it broke. And she was pretty bummed out about it. And so I started thinking about like replacing it with something even more special. So I started scheming, thinking about what exactly I wanted to do, what I wanted to deliver, what the final product was going to be, and started sketching out ideas. Sketching has never been like a super important part of my process, but like getting the thumbnail doodles out and trying to figure out an overall shape and form. And eventually, within a couple weeks, it settled on something that I was happy with. And then I started 3D printing. I thought I might have some in my studio, but I think they might be in the other room. I started 3D printing some of the forms to get a feel for the size and how it felt in the hand, and started tweaking that until I was happy with it. And then, working on the carafe as well. I will say, the carafe ended up being humongous, and I wish I had made like a paper model in advance to get a better feel for the size of it. It's like fine, it's just big. And I also suffer from 3D printing brain disease, where I just immediately hop into that instead of like doing more low fidelity, easy model making. So to any designers out there, making a scale model or like a rough model out of paper or cardboard or foam, highly recommend it. It could save you from making something humongous that could be significantly smaller. Anyway, once I had landed on some designs I was happy with, I had 3D printed the mug. I brought it into work to have people like Tom and some of my other coworkers get hands-on with it and make sure that it was like comfortable for them to hold and not just for me. It's also very important. User testing, highly recommend. And was happy with that. And so I brought it to a friend of mine from Pratt. Her name's Charlotte Reiter. She does a lot of ceramics. She sells some of her own stuff. If you look up Charlotte A. Reiter Design on Instagram, you'll find her. She also sells some stuff over at For the Record in Brooklyn. It's a coffee shop and record store. But I reached out to her and asked her if she'd be willing to make this stuff for me because she still had access to the Pratt facilities because she's still a student there. And that's way cheaper than going to a ceramic studio and asking someone to do it for you there. So it's taking advantage of that. And so she got started on the mold making and put together these, molds for the mugs and for the carafe. And we talked about, finishes, and she would show me the process while she cast them. So they were slip cast. Slip cast is when you take slip, which is like a clay body or porcelain in this case, suspended in a fluid, and you pour it into a plaster mold. And since plaster absorbs water, it like sucks the water with the suspended particles in it to the outside of the mold, and the water, gets sucked out, but it deposits the solids on the interior of the mold. So you get like a hollow object, which is really good for making stuff like mugs or coffee carafes. And so she showed me that process. I had never done it myself personally, so it was really cool to be involved with it. And then she made this really complicated mold for the carafe, which was like 5 or 6 parts. It was huge. And then she cast these things and talked to me about finishes and then fired them, and they looked great. And I was able to successfully deliver them to Izzy on Christmas on Long Island. I was so terrified that they would break, while moving them from Brooklyn to Long Island. But we were able to successfully make it, and now they are sitting comfortably on her countertop, unbroken. They're used frequently, and it's really nice just to see them sitting there, knowing that they're being used every day and appreciated, and looking nice, and that I made them.
Yeah,
more or less. I designed them at least.
Totally. And I think that's something really important, is not everything you make has to be something that's going to catch the eye of Adidas or Pottery Barn or some big brand. Sometimes there's just a vacuum that needs to be filled with an object where it's like, oh, I really care about this person. They love this. I have the ability to make a one-of-one original that does not exist in the world. And I can take that and I can make it and give it to this person. And it probably made her so happy because it's a really nice ability that we have to be able to say, hey, I care about you. Let me make you something and show you how I care through design.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
She actually didn't realize I had made them at first. I had slapped my logo sticker on the box.
Yeah.
First name, last name is my design studio name. And she thought I was just using those as decoration. And she opened it and she's like, oh, it's so nice. And then I had to be like, I made it. And she was like, you made it? And then she started crying.
Yeah.
Tears of joy, I think.
I think so.
Follow up.
I wasn't there, but I think it was probably tears of joy.
That she was not devastated. But it was a really beautiful moment. I was very, I just felt lucky to have someone in my life who appreciates it and to have had the opportunity to make something like that. And kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier, I don't have really any. I have a little ceramics experience, a little casting experience, but I'd never really designed a big project before this, and so I wanted to put some time and resources into exploring something I hadn't done before, and just doing a project for myself, basically. Sure, it was for someone else, but it was I was doing it for me also, to learn and try something new. I'm very interested in homewares as a designer, and so just having another product in that category to add to my portfolio was great. That was a big driver of it. Just doing things for yourself, building your portfolio. You got to make it happen for yourself. Waiting around isn't for an opportunity to do something probably isn't going to get you anywhere.
Agreed.
Make your own excuses.
Yeah. And I think that's such another good point is everybody's so worried about building their portfolios that the best way to build a portfolio is to just start making stuff for yourself, because it just starts to fill in. And that works for any design related career, is whatever you're driving towards, just start making those things. Like, I love merchandise. That to me is like my favorite thing.
I mean, it's one of the best Fugazi songs.
Yeah. But me saying, I've got these design skills now, I want to be able to make my own stuff, and just taking the initiative. I mean, yes, there's some money that goes into that you have to sink into this, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's the worst part.
Yeah. But when you finally get to that point where you're like, oh, I feel really confident that I can do this stuff now, that's just something you get to add to your resume and your portfolio for people. And I'm doing my first maker show in May, and now I'm like working through a bunch of new designs and stuff that I've never done before. I'm like, this is crazy to think that 2, 3, 4 years ago, I would like sit down and be looking through Instagram and be like, wow, look at all these great like streetwear companies or guys that are and girls that are designing all this apparel stuff. And I'm like, now I'm doing it for myself. And I know how, and I know all these different processes, and I have connections to all these great artisans and manufacturers that I didn't have before. So yeah, you have to make it happen for yourself. Yeah. That's really what it is.
Dude, congratulations. That's so sick. Is that the Asbury Park one?
Yes, that's the Asbury Park Bazaar that's happening in May.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. But, so, piggybacking off of that with your last project, now let's get into what I really wanted to talk about, which is your current project. And there it is. That's a prototype, correct?
There's most of it. Yeah, this is a factory sample.
Okay. So why don't you?
This looks so silly.
Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about what it is, what the inspiration was, and kind of what the manufacturing process has been like on this?
Sure. Oh, the manufacturing process has been a pain in my ass. All right. So this is On a Wire. The tagline for that is "On a Wire is a record stand as unique as your collection," and so it is both a record storage organizer and display. And so it holds, your records spine out in between these chrome-plated steel wires. And then there is like a specially designed bent portion up here. I apologize, you can't really see it in profile. I guess I can try and turn it and hope that nothing bad happens.
It's really pretty.
Yeah, you can see this little lip. And it just slots in and leans back, and it keeps it in place comfortably. And so you can both organize and display at the same time, not like, have them stacked and have one in front. I don't think that really counts as organizing and displaying.
Yeah.
And so this is, really, as far as my research has shown, the only option soon to be on the marketplace that does both of those things at the same time. I'm going to be launching it on Kickstarter on April 22nd. If you're interested in the project, I guess I'll plug it now and we'll keep moving.
Yeah.
You can follow on Instagram at Records on a Wire, and there's a period between each of those words. But yeah, so I was very inspired by modern design. That was also something that I found was missing in like the market for these types of products. It's a lot of like wooden crates or milk crates, plastic milk boxes, little wooden stands and stuff. And like, while those are nice, there was just, it wasn't scratching that itch for me. As I kind of talked about with my undergraduate project with the shoes, I've always been interested in like modern design, and I really wanted to encapsulate that. So I was really inspired by like Werner Panton and Marcel Breuer, who used a lot of like polished steel wire and tubing. And so I wanted to like integrate that into my own and then the form and the function should be united as best you can. So in this case, the use of these wires allows you to store records in between them. And then like the form of this is totally derived from the need to organize and display. And so it's like, it all came together to create this. And so it kind of had its origin in a Pratt class. I took a crowdfunding class from the professor Peter Raganetti, who has worked in like product development and business development for a lot of different companies, helping them create products and bring them to market, including through crowdfunding. And so I came up with a bunch of different ideas to try and like, the purpose of the class is to create a product and then get it ready. Like by the end of the class, you will be ready to launch it on like Kickstarter or Indiegogo or whatever.
Sure.
So I came up with this product and developed it through a number of different forms until it reached where it is now. For that, it would have displayed a record but not stored any, and then the next form it would have displayed or stored records but not both at the same time. And so then I really sat down and racked my brain, really put that thing to work, trying to figure out how I could do both, and came up with this like triangle form that's stable. It gives you a space beneath like the bend to store your records, and then uses like the minimum amount of material you need basically to display it on top of that, rather than having like a whole thing that goes up behind it and all that. You can get away with just this. And then, taking this through the process involved, coming up with the idea. Then I did like some market research, looking at what else was on the market, realized there was like an untapped niche there, reached out to people to see if they were interested. If they were just like generally interested in a product of this sort, because at that point there wasn't really a design to show them. And then just like workshopping it, I made like a wooden prototype that was just like 4 of those triangular profile shapes held together by like wooden dowels, just to make sure it could like store records. There was enough clearance and that it would like, be able to hold stuff without falling over, and it worked. And so then I started reaching out to factories to get a sample made and get quotes. So just like, hopping on Alibaba and emailing like 30 different factories asking if they'll sign an NDA. And then, if they say yes, getting it signed, and then sending over the manufacturing documentation. Realistically, it's not such like an earth-shattering design that you have to be worried about anyone stealing it, but I think it's generally a good rule of thumb. If they're not willing to, if they're not willing to sign this document, then you probably don't want to work with them. And so from there, I sent it to the ones who signed it, and then they would give me a quote, and I organized those quotes, and then asked about sample costs. We go for the cheapest first, and got a sample. And then the project kind of went on ice for about a year, I guess. This was like, the year before my final year of prep. And so I was like focused on that. I wasn't really interested in like running a Kickstarter campaign and like doing everything at the same time. And then, I finished school and I didn't have a job lined up. And I was like, I need something to do. And so I was like networking, just like reaching out to people to talk to them about what they do and their industry. A lot of people in like furniture. And one of the guys just said like, yeah, you should work on this project. It'll like look good on a resume. And I was like, well, I'm not doing anything else. I started doing like a lot of just like personal projects around that time. I was working on like a candle holder, which I have a million 3D prints of in the other room. And then like, I was like, I should revive this project because it could also make me some money, which I need to live here in this very expensive city.
Yeah.
Rather than just like coasting off of savings for as long as I can. And so I, got to work on that. And I had to get new quotes because quotes are typically only valid for 30 or so days, not for over a year. and made some small design changes and started, getting these quotes, collecting them, and then I reached out for a sample. And it was really terrible. It was really, really bad. I don't remember if I told you about that, Tom.
I've seen the pictures, yeah.
Yeah, the quality was really poor. So then I went for the second cheapest manufacturer, and that was this sample back here. And I've been very happy with it. So I will hopefully be working with them. But I mean, that takes us to now in terms of the actual manufacturing of the project. There's a couple of smaller design tweaks I want to make, but I won't really be doing that until I'm ready to manufacture because the quotes will be invalid and sampling costs are expensive, and I don't want to spend another $500 on another sample right now.
Sure.
It's not my wisest financial decision, especially when I already know what the factory is capable of delivering.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, outside of that has been the actual preparation for the campaign. So I've been running this Instagram page, records.on.o.wire. And just trying to build up a following in advance. Posting stuff online. I hate posting on Instagram, but I've been forcing myself to do it. Posting photos and videos. It's been a lot of throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks in terms of video content because, content is king, as they say. And if you can get a video to go viral, you can potentially get a lot of followers. I've had no success in that, but has motivated some perhaps poor video choices. But yeah, just been posting online, lots of photos, descriptions of the project, of the product. What's been really doing well for me lately are some video ads that I've been running on Instagram that have brought in 200 followers. I'm up to 513 as of when I checked this morning. Excuse me. Which I think is a lot. I'm super flabbergasted, aghast, and immensely humbled that 500 people care about this contraption that I made for a school class. And yeah, so it's been a lot of posting. I've tried making videos about records that were important to me that no one cared about, and I tried making these videos that were I have this record that I bought for $1 and I painted it green so I could green screen records onto it. And so I tried doing this video series where I would use AI to generate fake album covers and would come up with fake bands and artists and make silly stories about them, about whoa, check out this rare record I found that actually doesn't exist. That I thought were really funny and my friends thought were really funny, but no one else cared about. And were a lot of effort. So I might pick those up again later because I think it's fun. But yeah, those didn't go over as well as I'd hoped. That was where I was trying to go viral. It was if people pick this up, people think this is funny, this could be really good for me, and they did not. And so then there's just these more serious video ads where it's just detail shots of what sets this product apart, showing it in use, and people have really responded well. Also, just going on online communities. I've been in Midwest emo posting on Facebook since 2018 or whatever, and so I just hopped in there, and people really responded well and started following the account. I hopped on Reddit, a website that I hate. It hadn't really used before, made an account and just joined the r/vinyl subreddit and got over 100 followers just posting it there as well. So just going and finding the people who might be interested in this and really shoving it in their faces and hoping that they say, actually, thank you for doing that and not get out of my face.
Sure. And I think the whole process of you going through from concept to design to manufacturing to social media and marketing, it's all you. You're doing all of it by yourself. And
doing it all on my own.
Right.
I mean, I've had some help.
Yeah, of course.
From Izzy, but mostly me.
I think it's really important though, because if you don't ask people for how to do this stuff, you're not going to get the information. And it all ties back to that idea of you have to have the confidence to be able to ask. Just, it's almost like cold calling, but in 2024, where you're just like messaging people or Instagramming, DMing people. We're just like, hey, I know that you're good at this. Could you take a look at this and give me some notes? Could you tell me how you do your marketing campaign? What's your budget for advertising? How do you start a Kickstarter? Like, all these things that maybe you don't know anything about when you begin with, but by the time you're done, if you ask the right questions and you talk to the right people, you kind of become a pro at it, because it just out of necessity, it forces you to do it, especially when you're doing it all on your own.
Definitely. I mean, I was lucky to start from a slightly advantageous position, having had prior work experience, talking to factories and getting samples made and stuff. And then also having this class that was completely dedicated to teaching you how to do this and giving you resources and having people come in and talk to you and tell you how to do various aspects of it. I still am depending on those resources that I stole off the Google Drive and saved to my personal computer. And then also just having a network of supportive people. That professor, I just met with him on Monday to talk about the project. He gave me some great advice, looked over my stuff, was able to give me some, pointers. And I have a buddy, his name's Daryl Shelton. You can find him at Daryl Shelton Design on Instagram. He's also getting started on a Kickstarter that should be launching in April, coming up in a couple weeks, for a cool clock. He doesn't have a ton of information about it available now, but that's definitely that's gonna be coming up. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. But Daryl and I, since we're both working on our own Kickstarters, we are accountability buddies, and we check in every 2 weeks or so usually, and just talk about what's going on. We set goals for the next 2 weeks. And then we come back and we talk about what we did, what we accomplished, what we didn't, what our goals for the next 2 weeks are, and just keep moving forward and, try to hype each other up, keep each other focused, and keep each other moving forward, most importantly.
Yeah. Community is important. You got to have people around you that are going to boost you up. You need people around you that you can bounce ideas off of, hold you accountable. It's really important to make those connections. When you're on an island, it's so hard to get the information that you need. And I know that the internet, you can search for anything, but sometimes you can't get it in the layman's terms that you need it for your brain to feed it through, process it, and spit it back out. So it's nice to have people that understand you, have worked with you before, or are mentors that you can just ask dumb questions, or just say, hey, I think I want to get this done this week, and have somebody be able to check in on you and say, hey, did you get that thing done? Are you still working towards your goal? Have you set a schedule? Have you set a budget? Stuff like that. So yeah, it's really important. You need support in projects. And
yeah, it has been invaluable.
Yeah.
I cannot thank Daryl enough. Please follow Daryl Shelton Design on Instagram.
Yeah.
He's got cool things coming. He's a great designer and a great guy. And a punk, which is cool too.
Yeah, we love more punks in design. Okay, so we've seen a little bit of your work. We've talked through some processes that I think are really important. I think it's going to be great for some younger designers to be able to look at this and say oh, now I've seen sort of a finished product, and I know generally what the process is to get there. So I'm really just I'm so happy that we got to do this, because it's really nice to have source material for people. That's the whole goal of this podcast, is just, I want to give people information that's not so easily readily available, experience wise. And also, I was thinking about this today. It's nice to just have normal ass designers that are just kind of going through it, as opposed to what I would call celebrities in the industry or whatever, because they've already made their money. They've gotten the bag. They're not going to talk through their process, because they're not going through it anymore. So it's nice to see somebody starting from the ground coming up. And yeah, I think this information is really invaluable. I hope people will take a lot away from it.
I will say, if there are any like industrial designers or aspiring industrial designers or whatever, who just like want some advice or like are curious, want to learn more about the process or the industry, feel free to hit me up. Happy to talk about it.
Yeah. All right.
Spread the good word. I didn't know what it was for a long time. I wish I had known when I was younger.
Yeah. I think, hopefully this will allow more people to be able, even if it's not to you, just to reach out and get more information. Because I think that's really important. That's how I ended up finding graphic design, how I ended up getting better at it. And then with product and packaging and stuff, it's all about asking people the right questions.
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, why don't we move into our final questions? And then we'll do a little bit of wrap up, and we'll do some plugs and some tags and stuff, and then we'll get you on your way.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
First question for you. What's a piece of career advice you would give to a younger version of yourself?
Well, it's kind of been the theme of this episode, I guess. This really is just, start today. Just do it. I mean, I really had an epiphany when I was like, I don't know, 20, 21. I was just like sitting around listening to Gorilla Biscuits in my like childhood bedroom. Listening to the song Start Today. And I was like, I guess I really should start today.
Yeah.
And I've been,
that's really good advice.
Since then,
and
I really tried
it does sum up kind of what we've been talking about. Because, sorry.
You're so right, Bandit.
Yeah, it's my guy. Very shouty
Love
today.
that guy. He's, wanted to make himself heard.
Yeah. He's the silent podcast host. He's here, but very rarely heard.
He's the producer.
Yeah. But no, I think it's important. Just start. Just do it. Really, like it really
Seriously.
is. It's like just take that self-doubt, like ball it up, throw it away, and just like start working on the projects that you want to work on, because no one, like, you just have to. You have to just do it yourself. No one is going to do it for you.
I mean, don't worry about the final product. Also, like, it. Okay. There's a. If I can keep. Sorry.
No, sorry. Good? Continue.
Yeah, I mean, everyone starts from the same spot. Everyone starts at nothing, and you build it up. It's all about the work you put in and the effort and the time into learning and practicing. Like, I avoided picking up an instrument for a long time because I knew I wasn't gonna be good, and I didn't want to go through the process of being bad before I could be competent. And then I finally did it a couple years ago. I picked up the bass, and I don't know if I'm competent, but I really enjoy it, even just screwing around and learning. I'm going to reference another song and be absolutely insufferable, but there's like a Drug Church lyric that's like, life is process, not product. And I think that really holds true for everything. Just, it's about the journey, not so much the destination, and putting in the work and learning and growing. I think that could be applied to, life, anything, really.
Sure. No, I think that's great. All right, let's move on to question 2. What's a piece of career advice someone gave you that helped propel you through your goals, helped you achieve stuff that you wanted to tackle?
Definitely, I was just told, people are generally nicer than you may give them credit for. If you ask someone for help, even a stranger, or for information, or just to talk about, the industry that they're in, or the work that they do, or how they got where they are, they often will say yes. And they'll never say yes if you don't ask. I was able to meet a number of people just reaching out, strangers on like LinkedIn, Instagram, just asking them a question, asking if they'd be willing to talk about it. And, sometimes they say no, but they mostly say yes. And people just like to talk about, what they're interested in and what they're doing. I mean, look at me, here I am. Give them that opportunity. And if, hopefully you'll learn something from it too.
Sure.
I reached out to, and I'm not going to like say who in this case, but I reached out to like a big design meme account to see if they would like do some promo for this project for the On a Wire project that I'm working on. Initially I didn't hear back, and so I just followed up and I was like, hey, just following up on this. And they're like, yeah, sorry, I got a lot of messages. I like the product. I will charge like several thousand for a post on the Instagram grid, but like I'll do a story for free, or if you just want to like send me, an On a Wire when it gets made, I'd be happy to do it. And like, I don't know, just like putting yourself out there, talking to people, and initiating conversations.
Sure. No, I think it's true. It's just, you have to trust that people want to give you advice, and they do. I would say generally more often nice. Than not.
Chances are they started from a position very similar to you.
Yeah. And
they get it.
It's like you get to a point where if someone has helped you, you almost feel that sense of wanting to pass that along and be a part of the process of helping people get, stepping up, getting to that next level, which,
pay forward.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Last question. What's the next level for you? And I always pose this as it could be career related. It could be personal goals. It could just be like, hey, today I want to get outside and soak up some sunshine because it's been gray as hell in New York City and I need some vitamin D, Oh,
I'm absolutely deficient. I mean, look at me. Tasty as they come. Next level for me, I just want to like make more of my own stuff. I have a point of view, I think, that I want to express, and hopefully people are interested. One opportunity funds the next one, so hopefully this Kickstarter goes well. I mean, that's like right now, that's what I'm worried about. But yeah, just getting more of my own work out there, getting people interested, and sharing what I like with other people, and hopefully, finding other people who care. I mean, that's the big goal.
Sure.
What form that takes going forwards beyond this initial project, couldn't tell you. Whether that's like starting some sort of online web store for various things, or starting a studio, or what, but like officially. But I just want to make things.
Yeah.
That's why I got into this. I like making stuff, and I like sharing it with people.
Sure.
So I want to keep doing that. I want to do more of that.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And I think, similar goals for me. Definitely making stuff is fun, and it should continue to be fun. And people that want to get into making stuff should start doing it, because
seriously,
the more you do it, the better you'll get. And the better you get, the more stuff you'll be able to make, the more connections you'll make, the more opportunities you'll have, and your stuff will just kind of spread out into the world, which is cool.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to do everything for other people also. Just
that's really
stuff for yourself, because you enjoy the process. You don't have to post it online.
Yeah.
I do tons of stuff I don't post online.
Yeah. I'm so bad with social media. I think, if I get a post out or two a month where I'm like, hey, this is what I'm working on, I'm like, cool. So whoever sees it will see it. And if not, like, the best part is when through word of mouth, someone would be like, hey, I saw a shirt that you made. It's really cool. It looks super comfy. How do I get one? Or a hat. I was getting my hair cut the other day, and my barber was like, oh, I didn't even realize I put your hat on today. He was like, I wear this all the time. It's such a great hat. And I'm like, that makes me feel so good, because I'm like,
that's so cool.
Yeah. That's what you want. It's just I see a vision for stuff where I'm like, I just want to make stuff that I would wear, or things that I would use. And I feel like you're probably the same way. And it's just like taking the initiative to do it just puts you at such an advantage.
I mean, that was like a big part of this On a Wire project, where it's just like, I don't see any products that look how I want them to look, or function the way that I want them to function.
Yeah.
So I'll do it myself.
Right.
I mean, there's like motifs that I like in design that I don't see all the time or that I can't afford, and so I'll make it on my own.
Right.
Just learn through doing.
Yeah, and I'll attest to On a Wire. I think it's a gorgeous product. I've obviously seen a lot of pictures of it and renderings. And as an avid record collector, I can't wait to actually have one in my home, because right now I have all of my most listened to records wedged between my TV and one of my monitors, and I'm like,
the way it goes, huh?
This is what I've been waiting for, a product like this. So I'm really excited about it. And I'm hoping this will generate a lot of buzz for it. And also, like I said, just allowing people to see the process of how this thing gets made is, I think, really important.
Thank you. Yeah, and thanks for anyone who's tuning in. I hope I wasn't too annoying.
No.
Hopefully you stuck around and you heard about the product. Yeah, I mean, I'm passionate about it. I'm excited about it. I hope, some of you out there feel the same way.
Yeah. So I think just to wrap up, why don't you give everybody your socials, where to find On a Wire, when the Kickstarter is launching, all that stuff.
Sure. So you can follow the project online on Instagram at Records on a Wire. That's records, period, on, period, a, period, wire. I hope we can there's an episode description or something, we can put it in there.
Yeah, we'll get it linked. Don't worry.
Thank you. There's also, if you're not a big Instagram head, which, hey, I get it. There's a mailing list in the bio. So just follow that link. You can sign up for a mailing list. You don't have to deal with all the posts. Hey, Bandit. See, Bandit wants to sign up for the mailing list.
Yeah.
You can just follow that link, sign up for the mailing list. You'll get just the important updates, which will probably be coming. The next one will be oh, it's launching in a week. So it launches on April 22nd. It'll be on Kickstarter. I'll have a link up when it's ready. I'll be posting about it. I've been posting about it incessantly on Instagram, but it's going to get worse. I'm going to be posting a lot more when that time comes. But yeah, April 22nd, Kickstarter. Yeah, there's no standalone website for it at the moment, and I'll be real, there might not be. But so Instagram's definitely the way to go. Records on a Wire, period, between each word.
Cool. And what about your personal work? You want to link your personal Instagram?
I don't post a ton of my work online. I do have a website, I guess. You can go to gregdubin.com. You can see my work as a designer. That's GREGDUBIN.com. Yeah, it's in my online portfolio. Thank you for reminding me. I wasn't even thinking about that.
Sure.
If you like what you see, and you want to work on something of your own, I also do freelance work. So you can reach out through the contact info on there. There's also a bit about On a Wire there as well, if you wanted to, take a little advanced look without going on Instagram.
Sure. I'm going to put you on the spot too. I want you to give everybody 5 records that you've been listening to that you think everyone should be also listening to.
I haven't been listening to my record collection as my actual physical records as much as I should be.
Yeah.
But here, let me open up Spotify real quick and see what I've been listening to.
Sure.
So number 1 is a song. I've been listening to The Bottom 2 by Glorb a lot, which is an insanely good SpongeBob rage trap song where they use AI to make everyone a SpongeBob, every verse a SpongeBob character, but the beat is insanely hard and the verses are really clever and filled with wordplay. It's ridiculous.
It is really good. I've also listened to it and I like it a lot.
It's insane. It's ridiculous. I've been listening to the EP Polite Conversation by Public Opinion. The song American Bandstand is super sick, and the dude's voice is great. It's punk. Just straight up punk, less hardcore. Melodic hardcore maybe. Double Nickels on the Dime by Minutemen, classic California punk record from the 80s, seminal, super long. The Jackass theme is one of those songs. I'm listening to Hit the Rock by Dirt Bike Annie a lot lately. That had Mikey Erg from the Ergs in it for a minute as their drummer. But they're like a good like pop punk power pop band. So if you like the Ergs, you like kind of some like, I don't know, Dear Nora, like that kind of stuff. I think you'll enjoy it. What's the name of this record? Sorry, I'm listening to Conservative Military Image a lot. Chicago Oi hardcore band. Yard Hard is really funny. I don't think it's meant to be that funny, but just good, solid, straightforward Oi hardcore. Really catchy, really powerfully performed. I just missed them when they were here, unfortunately. And then the album 4D, like number 4, letter D, by Star Kids. They're a Japanese like hyper pop hip hop group. They make like insanely catchy, wildly produced, super fun, energetic music, and I can't get enough of it. I would love for them to perform in the States someday. They haven't released any albums in a couple years, but they've had like a consistent string of good singles. But yeah, 4D is I think their best like full project so far.
Okay.
Definitely like, it's not long, and I think all the songs are pretty good, but I think the second half, like from the 4th song onwards, is like where the best of it is. So if it's not immediately grabbing you, stick with it. I'd love to see them get more play in the United States and eventually come so I can jump around like an idiot to their music and probably throw out my back.
Yeah, we're getting too old for that.
That's
shit.
5. That's 5.
Yeah, that's
right?
5. Yeah, that's 5.
All right.
I'll throw a couple of my own in there.
Please.
I will say the new Stay Inside record is great. That's a cool New York City based emo band. Gulfer, another one that I've really liked. That Liquid Mike record that you recommended to me.
Oh god, that one's so good.
There's a new Lake St. Daniel record. If you guys like Future Teens, this is a solo project by one of the singers. It's fantastic. I've been spinning that a lot. And weirdly, I mean, okay, the Adrian Lanker record is not a surprise for me. I think it's good. But the new Casey Musgraves record has been fantastic. And that's not something that I would typically listen to, but I really love it.
I'll check that one out. I've heard really good things.
Yeah,
and I value your opinion.
It's great.
So
I really like it. And yeah, I think, that's pretty much going to be it for this episode. So this was episode 5 of the DGDC, The Next Level Pod. Please, follow us on all our socials. It's at DGDC Pod on pretty much everything. And then please follow me on Instagram at @TLaura_design. I'll be dropping some new merch and stuff, posting some new things about the stuff that I'm designing for this new show. And if you're in New Jersey on Mother's Day, I'll be in Asbury Park at the Asbury Park Bazaar. I'll be selling at the Asbury Hotel from 12 to 5. So please come for that. And I got to say, Greg, thank you. Really appreciate you doing this with me.
I mean, I'm so thankful for you letting me on here. I know I can be a very unfocused speaker, so I hope this was a tolerable episode.
No, this was great. I think it moved really well. I think it was a lot of really good, valuable information. I'm glad we finally got to sit down and do this.
Yes, it's a lot of fun. And thank you for giving me the platform.
Of course. And if
you all check it out.
If anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to either of us or just to the pod in general, and let us know what you think. So, we'll catch you later, man. Enjoy the rest of your day.